Most people say they want the truth. They say it confidently. I just want honesty. Tell me the truth. I can handle it. But what they actually mean is something different. They mean, tell me something that feels good to hear. Because the moment truth challenges identity, the moment truth disrupts comfort, the moment truth doesn't align with how someone already sees themselves, it's no longer welcome. It's labeled as harsh, insensitive, wrong, or even offensive. And that's where the real problem begins. Because if you only accept truth when it feels good, you don't want truth. You want validation. This is without permission. Unfiltered conversation about power, identity, masculinity, culture, sexuality, and the things we were told not to say. I'm Chris Willingham, and we're going to talk about why people don't actually want truth. They want validation. Let's get clear on something first. Truth is not designed to make you comfortable. Validation is. Truth tells you what is real. Validation tells you what feels good. Those two things only overlap some of the time. Truth might tell you, you're wrong. You're avoiding something. You're making excuses. You're not as self-aware as you think you are. Validation tells you, you're doing great. You're justified. You're right to feel that way. You don't need to change. Now here's the problem. Validation feels better. So people start choosing it. Not occasionally, consistently. And over time, they lose their relationship with truth entirely. Validation is powerful because it regulates emotion quickly. It removes discomfort. It reinforces identity. It confirms what you already believe. And your brain loves that because your brain is not designed for truth. It's designed for survival. And survival prefers certainty over challenge, comfort over friction, agreement over disruption. So when someone validates you, your brain relaxes. It says, good, we're safe. But when someone tells you the truth that challenges you, your brain reacts differently. It tightens, it defends, it resists. Not because the truth is wrong, because the truth feels threatening. Social media has made this worse because now validation is instant. You post something, people agree, people like it, people reinforce it, and suddenly you're surrounded by confirmation, not correction. You don't hear opposing perspectives. You don't hear challenges. You hear agreement over and over and over again. And that creates a dangerous illusion. The illusion that your perspective is universally correct, when in reality, you've just curated an environment that reflects you back to yourself. This doesn't just happen online, it happens in relationships. Friendships built on validation feel good at first because everyone agrees, everyone supports, everyone reinforces. But over time, those relationships become shallow because no one challenges anything. No one says, you're wrong. No one says you're avoiding something. No one says, you need to look at this differently. And without that, growth stops. Because growth requires truth, not comfort. Here's where we get deeper. Truth doesn't just feel uncomfortable. It often feels like rejection. Because when someone challenges your thinking, your identity feels exposed. You don't hear, that idea might be wrong. You hear, there's something wrong with me. And that interpretation creates emotional resistance because nobody wants to feel rejected. So instead of engaging with truth, people reject it and move towards validation because validation feels like acceptance. Let's talk about men for a second because this is where it gets real. Men are often told to be strong, confident, certain, decisive. But here's the problem. If you build identity around certainty, truth becomes threatening because truth requires adjustment, requires correction, requires admitting when you're wrong. Many men struggle with that, not because they're incapable, because they were never taught how to handle it without losing identity. So instead of embracing truth, they defend themselves against it. Or they surround themselves with people who validate them. And that's where stagnation begins. Now let's talk about women, because validation shows up differently. Many women are socially conditioned to prioritize emotional connection, and emotional validation plays a role in that. Being heard, being understood, being affirmed, those things matter. But when validation replaces truth entirely, it creates imbalance. Because support without honesty does not lead to growth, it leads to reinforcement. And reinforcement without reflection creates blind spots. If you live in validation long enough, you become disconnected from reality. Not dramatically, subtly. You begin overestimating your awareness, underestimating your blind spots, avoiding difficult truths, and surrounding yourself with people who keep you comfortable. And the more comfortable you become, the harder truth becomes to hear. Because now truth feels disruptive, unnecessary, even offensive. Take it a step deeper. People don't reject truth because they're unintelligent. They reject truth because it disrupts identity. And identity is one of the most protected things a person has. If you've built your identity around being a good partner and someone tells you you're contributing to the problem, it doesn't feel like information. It feels like an attack. If you've built your identity around being strong and someone points out your avoidance, it doesn't feel like feedback. It feels like disrespect. Truth doesn't just challenge ideas. It challenges self-perception. And when self-perception is threatened, people don't get curious. They get defensive. When people hear truth they don't like, they don't usually say, let me think about that. They respond with defense, and it shows up in predictable ways. They deflect, they minimize, rationalize. They attack the person instead of addressing the idea. They say things like, "That's not true. You just don't understand. That's your opinion. You're being negative." All of those responses serve one purpose: to protect identity, not to examine truth. Validation does the opposite. Validation reinforces identity. It tells you, you're right. You're justified. You don't need to change. And your nervous system relaxes because validation feels like safety. But safety and growth are not always aligned. Growth requires discomfort. It requires friction. It requires moments where you realize, I might not be seeing this clearly. Validation removes those moments. And without those moments, you stay the same. So let's make this real. You've seen this in relationships. Someone complains about their partner. Their friends say, "Oh, you deserve better. You're not the problem. They're just toxic." That feels good. That's validation. But what if the truth is more complicated? What if both people are contributing to the problem? What if there are patterns on both sides? What if growth is required, not just separation? That's harder to hear because truth often removes the simplicity of blame. You see this at work too. Someone struggles in their role, and instead of asking, "What can I improve?" they look for validation. My boss doesn't understand me. This company is toxic. They don't appreciate me. Sound familiar? Sometimes those things are true, but not always. And if someone never examines their own performance honestly, they carry the same problems into every environment. Validation keeps the cycle going. Truth breaks it. Dating might be the clearest example. People want honesty till honesty challenges their behavior. Someone says, "You're emotionally unavailable." Immediate reaction: "No, I'm not. That's not true. You just don't understand me." But what if it is true? What if avoidance is present? What if patterns exist? That's where growth begins, but only if truth is allowed to land. This is important. Support is not the same as validation. Support includes truth. Support says, "I care about you enough to be honest." Enabling says, "I care about you enough to keep you comfortable." Those are very different. Support challenges, enabling protects. Support promotes growth, enabling maintains stagnation. And many people confuse the two. When people build their identity around validation, they become dependent on it. They need agreement, they need reassurance, they need confirmation, because without it, their identity feels unstable. That's why disagreement feels so threatening, because it removes the external reinforcement they rely on. And without that reinforcement, they don't know how to stabilize themselves. Let's come back to men for a minute, because this is where it gets uncomfortable. Men are often taught to seek validation through status, success, recognition, sex, approval. But if validation becomes the foundation of identity, truth becomes dangerous. Because truth might reveal weakness, avoidance, blind spots. And many men would rather protect their image than confront those realities. But image is not strength. Truth is. At the core of all this is fear. Fear of being wrong, fear of being exposed, fear of not being who you thought you were, fear of losing control of your identity. And that fear drives people towards validation, because validation quiets that fear, at least temporarily. Now let's bring it back to you, not theoretically, personally. Think about the last time someone told you something that didn't feel good to hear. What was your first reaction? Did you get curious, or did you get defensive? Did you reflect, or did you reject? That reaction tells you everything, because it reveals whether you prioritize truth or validation. Let's say it plainly. Most people do not want the truth. They want confirmation. They want to feel right. They want to feel justified. They want to feel understood without being challenged. Because truth requires something that validation does not. Responsibility. Truth asks, what part of this is mine? Where am I contributing? What am I avoiding? Validation asks, who's to blame? Who agrees with me? Who can make me feel better right now? And if you're honest, you've chosen validation before. Everyone has. The question is not whether you've done it. The question is how often you live there. Choosing validation consistently comes with a cost. You stay the same. Your patterns stay the same. Your relationships stay the same. Your results stay the same. Because nothing is challenged. Nothing is being examined. Nothing is being corrected. Growth requires disruption. And disruption is uncomfortable. But discomfort is temporary. Stagnation is permanent. So let's add some balance. Because truth is not an excuse to be cruel. Truth is not about tearing people down. Truth is not about dominating conversations. Truth delivered without awareness becomes aggression. But avoiding truth entirely becomes weakness. The balance is discipline. Say what is real without unnecessary harm, without ego, without performance. Just clarity. Emotionally strong people have a different relationship with truth. They don't enjoy being wrong. They're willing to face it. They don't seek criticism, but they don't avoid it. They don't collapse when challenged. They pause. They evaluate. They adjust. because they understand something important. Truth is not an attack. It's information. And information is power. If you spent time in validation, you can rebuild your relationship with truth. It starts with awareness. Noticing when you seek agreement, noticing when you reject discomfort, noticing when you surround yourself with people who always agree with you. Then it moves into practice. Listening longer, reacting slower, asking better questions, sitting in discomfort without immediately escaping it. Truth becomes easier to hear when you stop trying to protect yourself from it. The hardest truth to hear is the one you tell yourself. Self-honesty requires discipline because there's no audience, no validation, no applause, just you in reality. Am I avoiding something? Am I making excuses? Am I choosing comfort over growth? Those questions are uncomfortable, but they're necessary because self-honesty is the foundation of real change. The people around you matter. If you surround yourself with people who only validate you, you'll feel good, but you won't grow. If you surround yourself with people who challenge you, you will feel uncomfortable, but you will evolve. The strongest environments are not the most comfortable ones. They are the most honest ones, where people can say, I see something you don't, without fear, without hostility, without losing connection. In relationships, truth creates depth. Validation creates comfort. Both are important, but when validation replaces truth, connection becomes shallow. Because real intimacy requires being seen clearly, not just supported, but understood. And understanding requires honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. Now zoom out. This isn't just personal, it's cultural. We are living in a time where validation is easier than truth, faster than truth, more accepted than truth. And because of that, people are becoming less resilient, less reflective, less willing to be challenged. But cultures that avoid truth don't become stronger. They become fragile. So now the question becomes simple. Not easy, but simple. Do you want to feel good or do you want to grow? Because you won't always get both at the same time. Sometimes growth feels like discomfort. Sometimes truth feels like tension. Sometimes progress feels like being wrong. But that's the path. Next time someone tells you something that doesn't feel good, pause. Don't react immediately. Don't defend immediately. Just ask yourself, is there something here I need to look at? That question alone can change your life. Most people don't want truth. They want validation. Because validation is easy. Truth requires change. But if you want to grow, if you want real strength, if you want real clarity, you cannot build your life on what feels good. You have to build it on what is real. I'm Chris Willingham, and this is Good Leadership.